You know what really moves me about college sports? It's the other stuff. It's not necessarily. I love the games, but I like the other stuff more. So I just want to get your thoughts on what do you feel like the impact of House, especially with Judge Wilkin saying, you know what, maybe you should grandfather in and slowly shrink roster size. What do you think the fallout is going to be when it comes to scholarships and roster size across major college football?
Well, I will say it's been a learning experience for me. At Nebraska, you've got as many as 40 walk-ons.
Right.
You know, a typical number is probably closer to 15, 20 to 25. The idea that they would be out, just sort of out on the street at the end of this is something that I think a lot of people, especially those who've like played the game, have really voiced their, disappointment in. I think a 4-year phase out period is something that is sensible. And I think that, hearing that be one thing that Judge Wilkins is really focused on kind of surprised me. I thought that we'd have more discussion about the clearinghouse and about fair market value and about how in the world
we will. We absolutely will have discussions about that.
Yeah, I mean, those to me seem like the things that require the most amount of discussion, debate, and finalizing before we move forward into this new world of revenue sharing in college athletics. The roster size seems to cut to a lot of the heart of college sports, but for me, the head part of it is exactly how you are going to have these debates. Is, for example, like High Point University, right? High Point University might be able to make an argument that for a High Point University athlete, fair market value might be one thing, while somebody in an office in Deloitte in Chicago looks at High Point University and doesn't think there's any value.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in an office at Deloitte in Chicago, apologies to Deloitte. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
To shoot straight here. But like they might look at a UCLA athlete and say, oh, Los Angeles, fair market value, when no one around Los Angeles knows anything about UCLA football. Like it's just like
what a shot. You're taking shots at UCLA football.
Yes, I am. Your value in Ames, Iowa,
right,
as Rocco Beck, starting quarterback for the Iowa State Cyclones, is more than it is if you are competing for the starting quarterback job at UCLA right now.
Right, absolutely.
And so I just those are the things that I think I'm anxious to see if we get any clarity on the roster size discussions, which ultimately seem to be the hang up and why we have still not pushed this thing through. That seems to be more of the play into the heartstrings type stuff.
I chuckled when it was clear that the NCAA attorneys and the Power Five pushed back on that, and basically told the judge, "Yeah, we're not changing that. Like they're going to have to." Although she might approve it anyway. There are a couple of things about what you said, because just because the judge wants to grandfather these the numbers in and have a gradual step down to 105. The counter argument to getting rid of walk-ons is that a good number of these walk-ons, as many as 20 maybe, will be scholarship players.
Right, because we currently have 85 as the scholarship limit.
Right, so that is the counter argument to that, whereas the objections to this is more about opportunity rather than who pays the freight for something like this. I found it amazing that we were going to have one entity, Deloitte, basically going through every NIL deal. Like, how are they possibly going to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the perfect answer. The
right,
answer is, of course,
I know. Right. Again, there's the emotional heartstrings. Think of the walk-ons, and I will tell you that my ears will perk up a lot more when we start to get to this second part of it, because I think I've just told you, but I have heard both in press conferences and also in discussions the ground being laid for fair market value.
Yeah, come on,
And what this player means to this university. I mean, you really can't put a number on it. Well, and I swear that it's like when I hear these quotes and I'm like, oh, you're you're already playing the game.
Right.
And you're playing the game so that you can win the bidding war and not have your NIL deal called into question. Because even with a clearinghouse for the very best players, it will still be bidding wars that will reach astronomical levels, as bidding wars tend to do, and then it will be circle back afterwards to justify whatever the price is.
And your value is really what somebody is willing to pay for you.
Right.
That's really what your market value is, and especially if you get two entities who are willing to pay a certain whatever for you. The fact that they want to make it true NIL is a joke to me. Ultimately, I think we're going to have the schools paying players and collectives also paying players, and maybe that's the way it was always supposed to end up. But every time I read what's going on in this hearing, in these hearings, there are parts of it, like every few paragraphs, where I go, wow, wouldn't collective bargaining help?
Yeah. Well,
it's never going to do it.
So some places I think are taking this internally and just saying, like, we're just not going to play the game. Wake Forest head coach Jake Dickert, I heard him describing the way that they've laid out their revenue sharing plan for their football team. And, they've got slots. Then he even compared it to, rookie wage scale.
Right.
We are going to say, if you are this type of player, you're going to be in this category. This type of player, you're in this category. It's production. It's where you are on the depth chart. Like, if you are a productive reserve, you get this. If you are a not productive reserve, you get this. If you are a not productive starter, you get this. If you are a productive starter, you get this. And this is where I think, to your point, then he said, and then there are going to be those ones at the top that are exceptions. And I think this is going to be the case at a lot of places that are just trying to move ahead with this and wrap their mind around having an actual salary cap. Places like Wake Forest that are used to really having just to worry about scholarship counts and scholarship caps more than salary caps. The exceptions are going to be where sort of your NIL come in. So if I'm constructing a football roster, I've got an idea of a salary cap that is based off revenue sharing. And then depending on where I am in the food chain, how many really, really good players I have, that's how many exceptions I have. And the exceptions are where you lean on NIL to take it over the top.
Well, let me ask you this question. It'll be a final question about this before we gotta talk about the Masters a little bit. If you're Wake Forest, you have a small stadium, the chances of you being really good in football don't really matter. The ACC is not going to kick you out. Why don't you throw a lot of your money into basketball and try to be really good at basketball? And why wouldn't other schools like that take the same approach?
Well, I can't use Wake Forest directly, especially on this unprecedented statewide platform. There are far too many Wake Forest fans, and Wake Forest is an exception. Smallest Power 5 enrollment. Like the some of the success that they've had, ACC championship, ACC runner-up finish just a couple years ago, like true Haley's Comet type stuff.
Yep.
What they have achieved in college football, the sustained level of success, bowl game wins against Texas A&M under Dave Clark, like all of that stuff is far, far exceeding the expectations based on everything on paper. So instead, I'm going to take you to a school in the big bad SEC.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you the reverse, because SEC supposedly greatest basketball conference in the history of man, right? Mm-hmm. James Naismith wished he was in the SEC. Texas A&M's hiring of Bucky McMillan, to me, was punting on trying to be good in basketball.
Okay.
I think that we are going to see more of that. I think we are going to see, whether it's basketball or football to basketball, I think we're going to look at it with the hires. I don't think the hire of Jake Dickert was punting on football.
Well, I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying.
Right. But that's I think that what you're going to see it is with the coaching hires.
Right.
And the investment, the staffing investment overall, that's going to be where you start to see, things declared one way or the other. Because when Buzz Williams left to go to Maryland, Texas A&M could have gotten a sitting power conference coach if it wanted to, and it didn't want to bad enough. You had a relationship with Fred Hoiberg, who's at Nebraska. Former Nebraska Athletic Director Trev Alberts is at Texas A&M.
That's right.
The Nebraska men's basketball Twitter account over the weekend posted a photo of Fred Hoiberg on the phone on the private jet. Like you end up getting Samford's coach, who is innovative, sure, but cheap and innovative is how Texas A&M has decided it's going to try to win in college basketball, a pesky, frisky underdog. And so to bring it back to Wake Forest, if we see Wake Forest try to become the pesky, frisky underdog and not investing in football, not, hiring coaches that meet the qualifications and the standard that has been set by Jim Grobe and Dave Clawson, then I think you can say that they are perhaps starting to make those kinds of decisions. I think Jake Dickert was a really, really good coach. And while he was certainly looking for a life raft to get out of Washington State, right, given how far the Cougs had fallen with the way the Pac-12 broke up, he's still a head coach that was on a watch list for other power conference jobs. And so I don't think that's lowering your standards with that hire. Maybe things change moving forward, but that'll be where I start to see schools declare their intent one way or the other.
Chip Patterson, Cover 3 podcast moderator, CBSSports.com. Before we move on to the Chipolytics for this upcoming week, I want to thank you for reminding me who the head football coach was at Wake Forest, Jake Dickert. I wrote it down, so I will not forget. All right.
The man who found Cam Ward.
It's pretty good. He was like at like a small school in Texas, right?
Incarnate Word.
Right. Okay. Yes, which is now a Division I school across the board. Question for you: the Chipolytics. Do all of the Chipolytics point to Scotty Scheffler?
No. Have you heard his interviews?
A little bit. I heard somebody ask him about ravioli.
Well, he's calling
I find it hysterical.
Hey, he's calling them allergies. I don't know, man.
He was very stuffy. I listened to him yesterday. I'm like, what's wrong with Scotty?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Our boy might have the sniffles. I mean, listen, I've many have tried to get out there amongst the pollen and be able to navigate that and have a clear head. It's a good thing he's won the daggum thing twice, so
right,
maybe he can win it with his eyes closed, because they might be puffy and shut. A Scotty, a John Rahm,
right?
Like there are some places, but I'll tell you where the Chipolytics are pointing.
Okay, let's hear it.
They're pointing to the guy who closed down the course yesterday. They're pointing to the guy who is chasing Max Homa's living record of most balls hit on the driving range. Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah. Look, I said before, I think he's going to be a major factor here. I think he's going to be a major factor in every major. He was right there last year until Saturday at 15.
Yep.
And he just, I don't remember the number he posted. It was, I think, a 7, but he was right of the green in 2, and then he made a mess of it from right there. Look, anybody can make a mess of 15. But
then did he even follow it up with chipping in at 18?
He might have, yeah.
Yeah.
He could have won 3 majors last year. He had that good a year. You could argue he maybe should have won the PGA, right? From where he was late. I think Xander Schauffele is going to have everything to say with who wins this too. I don't really care what has happened going forward. In the last, say, month, he's played full events the last few weeks. His iron play screams major contender here. I mean, he's as good as anybody, maybe the best not named Scheffler right now, and from like 175 to 225 yards out with an iron. I mean, he's as good as anybody there. So why wouldn't he be coming up on your Chipolytics?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not looking at anybody, and this is not intentional. It's just as I'm sitting here looking at my board and we're talking about it, I don't think we will have a first-time major winner. I think whoever wins the Masters this year has at least one major championship already to their name.
So we get rid of Ludwig Oberg?
Yep.
Oh, man. Colin Morikawa.
He's got 2 majors.
Right. No. I'm going back to the guys who have won majors. Has Rory won a major, Chip?
A couple. Yeah, several even.
I don't know, man. It's been a minute.
The Colin aspect is really fun to talk about coming out of the NCAA tournament, because Colin Morikawa at the Masters, or at least Colin Morikawa right now, feels a little bit like UVA basketball ascending under Tony Bennett, where Tony Bennett just kept saying, if I've got a team good enough and we just keep showing up and we are just a top 4 seed after a top 4 seed after a top 4 seed, then eventually things are going to break our way. And in 2019, things broke their way. And so for Colin, and look, he's got multiple major championships. It's not like he needs any affirmation on where he stands, but all of this good golf followed by the inability to finish. The other side, if he can't finish, is that he's always in the mix to win. Yeah. And so I love that form. You know, if you want to talk about opening up that FanDuel Sportsbook where you can make every moment more, like any kind of Colin top 5s, Colin top 10s, all those are green light go. But I'm not going to be picking him to win, even though I know he is very capable of it.
He is an ACC legend, Colin Morikawa.
Go Bears.
Absolutely.
Did you see we have Cal football booster drama?
Well, Cal is like, guys are withholding money until Ron Rivera is essentially put in charge of Cal football, like Andrew Luck is in charge of Stanford football. You and I haven't talked about that.
Amazing.
I think it's awesome that Stanford has essentially treated their football program like a pro program by Andrew Luck. You're the GM. You have the power to hire and fire the coach. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And it also makes me wonder where Jim Tanner sits in the org chart over at North Carolina, because we are setting new grounds. We are having new standards. Is the general manager hired by the head coach or the university?
What do you think it is in Carolina football?
That is Lombardi reporting to Belichick.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, I think Belichick got it. Hold on. I think Belichick got it in his contract, which he just signed 4 hours ago from everything I've heard. I think Belichick got it in his contract that he doesn't even report to Lee Roberts. I think Chancellor Lee Roberts reports to him. I think it's not even called the old well anymore. It's just the old Bill. You know,
Belichick reports to Jordan.
Right.
That's it. That's all we need to know. Yeah. She is in charge. My gosh, that's just too good. You made me laugh. You made me cry. All right, is your pick? I forgot who it was. Who was your
Bryson.
pick? Bryson. Yeah.
Bryson. Yeah. And the general card, the way that I'm kind of building things out are support for Scotty, support for Colin. Bryson. You've got. I like a little JT to play well here.
Really?
Would not pick. I know
he is way higher on the board than I would have thought, considering he hasn't really played consistently well in a couple of years.
Here, especially, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, and then a little bit further down, like myself a little Sepp Straka, like myself a little Russell Henley.
I love Russell Henley. I like Akshay Bhatia.
Don't hate that. Like myself a little Corey Connors, Shane Lowry.
Can you see all the names I have written here? Henley.
Hey, how about this?
Neiman, Connors, Lowry, Fitzpatrick, Akshay.
What about top debutante?
Top debutante. I haven't thought about top. What about the Joe Highsmith?
I like
24-year-old wearing that hat. Get out of here.
Mav McNeely. Let's go.
Okay. He's played well.
He's played well recently.
All right. By the way, no mention of Rory. You don't like Rory. I will have no tickets on Rory. I promise.
Yeah, no. I think that's an opportunity where I'm happy to be late.
Exactly. If he wins this one, I will bet he wins the next 3.
Just rolls them off. Did you go back and look when I told you to look at the elbow comment?
Yeah, he's fine. Okay. He's fine. Sandbagging. Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, Cover 3 podcast moderator, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.